Welcome back to another episode of the Frustrated CEO podcast. My name is Patrick Lyons. I am just one of your co-hosts for this show, episode 71. I'm here with my other co-hosts, my friends, my colleagues, my cohorts, Patsy Freeman and Leb Tannenbaum. Welcome to you both. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back. We have the honor of bringing back Marianne O'Brien for a second episode. Listener, if you didn't catch our first conversation with Marianne, make sure you go back and listen to episode 70, where we dug into Marianne's wisdom and experience as CEO of OBI Creative, which was recently in 2023 named to Inc. 5000's fastest growing companies list. So certainly a lot of experience and knowledge and wisdom to share. Thank you for that, Marianne. That was a fun episode. Now we're going to turn our focus to Marianne O'Brien, the thought leader on marketing, on branding, and on the whole experience. We're going to talk today about trends, and we're going to talk today about thought leadership, something that Marianne certainly has a lot of experience as doing it herself, but also advising clients. So grab a pen and paper and make sure you take great notes today if you have wondered about thought leadership or aspire to be seen as a thought leadership, and all in the vein of growing your brand. Marianne, welcome back to the
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I'm excited. Okay. So first question out of the gate for the listener who maybe is we've heard this term thought leadership, but can you demystify it for us? What is thought leadership in today's day and age with social media? Why is it important? And then as a leader, how do I engage with it?
Yeah. So thought leadership is sharing your expertise in more of a one-to-many environment. So on social media, if you're posting about something you're an expert in, that would be considered thought leadership. So an environment where people can get a point of view from you, the leader, the thought leader in the space, and use that as part of the data set that they have to determine whether they agree or not. And I think that in today's day and age, where there's just so many messages coming at you, and there's so many opportunities for people to learn and get an insight. Thought leadership has become more of a practice area that we use in marketing as part of a larger strategy for a brand. Sometimes that is for the CEO, and other times that could be for product leader, the head of a department. It just depends on kind of the willingness of that individual to share, and then also on really the strategy, the marketing strategy of that organization. And then there's, there are thought leaders that, may work in a business, but their thought leadership might have nothing to do or not be assigned even closely to what their business or their organization does. So there's different ways to come at thought leadership. Sometimes it's called personal branding as well. It's just it's an area, a practice area that has become more and more important. And it's become important because the platforms to communicate are allowing us to share more broadly our knowledge. And that then can reflect positively to you, the individual, or to you as a part of your business.
You mentioned already, right, there's just so many messages coming at us. One of the counter arguments that I hear for thought leadership, or for trying that strategy, is there's so much out there that's, unless you're one of the big names, that you just get lost in the sea of noise. Is it too late to jump into the pool because there are so many voices out there that you can't be noticed? Or is it not about becoming one of those? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really great question. I don't think it's too late. I don't ever think it's too late, for anything, frankly. So I don't think it's too late. If you're not on social media, if you're not participating in this digital world, you need to get engaged in that. That is how the world communicates. That is how the future communicates. And they're digital natives. So if you're not comfortable in that space, you need to find a friend, find an agency, find somebody who can help you get comfortable. But it's not too late, because with AI, with ChatGPT, for example, there's so many opportunities for people to develop a lot of content quickly, but humans know if that is authentic or not. Is that a machine developing that content, or is that a person? And taking a point of view is really important when you're talking about thought leadership. You can't just be milquetoast. You have to have a point of view. You're the leader. You want to own a position in the market, and so you have to stand for something, or you'll stand for everything, and that then you won't be relevant. There's a strategy to very effective thought leadership, and it really, part of that is identifying your position. Who are you? Why do you matter? And what position do you take on certain things? And that all is, if the thought leadership is coming through your business, it's got to be aligned in some way to your business. It doesn't have to be 100% completely aligned. You don't have to toe the party line. The best businesses in the world have people aligned to their brand. So when we do thought leadership at OBI for CEOs or department heads or thought leaders within the organization, that thought leadership is part of a much bigger, broader, integrated marketing plan. And so the content or the topics that we're going to talk about, they're all going to somehow align or ladder back up to the brand. And that's, it's very strategic and calculated, and but it's also authentic. So there's got to be a plan, and there's got to be some focus if you want your thought leadership to take hold. But it's not too late. And I think there's different kinds of thought leaders. There's thought leaders that is their job to be a thought leader. That's all they do is thought leadership. And then there's thought leaders that have a day job, like the CEO. They have a real day job. And so how can we use their expertise to give kind of recognition around that themselves personally, but also the company that they lead? And so they can't be doing thought leadership 24/7. That's just not realistic. They got a business to run. So finding the right cadence and finding the right tactics is really important. And it's not something that I recommend you try to figure out on your own. I would definitely find, an agency that can help you integrate your thought leadership into your overall company marketing plan.
Yeah, I think that's why people dip a toe into the water and then quit, because without a plan, it does feel like I'm doing this. It's not generating any traction whatsoever. And, it's not working. I give up. And maybe what's lacking is just the plan, right? That to your point, how does this fit into a broader strategy? Yes.
I mean, you wouldn't build a house without a plan. So you can't build your personal brand without a plan. And you wouldn't, if I'm an expert in advertising, I'm not building my own house. So I would find an expert to build my house, and I would find an expert to build my brand. And, even me, I own an ad agency, and I have people who build my brand. I review it. I'm a brand strategist. I know how to do it, but it's like the cobbler's kids don't have shoes. It's not, it's just kind of not my priority all the time. My clients are my priority. So I even have a team that works on my personal brand that helps write my content. It's all based on the things that I care about and that are meaningful to me, but I don't write every piece of content that comes out, and neither do a lot of our clients that we do personal branding for or thought leadership for, because it's not the best or highest use of their time. What's the best use is a 1-hour meeting once a month with people who are experts in copywriting around, and let them write articles that reflect your point of view, and then let the social media team post it. I'm not posting all of the stuff that I'm doing. I have a team of people here that post it. It feels like it's me, and it needs to feel like it's me, but it's too much work for one person who has a full-time day job to do on their own.
Right. Yeah, you can't do that and still run a business.
And I think that's really important. So, like, if you're going to build your brand, if you're going to drive thought leadership through your brand, you need to ask yourself, do you have the resources to help you do that? Does it make sense? Do you align back to your business brand, or is this something that you want to do outside and, completely separate from your company? if you want to do that completely separate, that's going to be a lot of work. If you're going to do it as part of the integrated marketing plan of your organization, then you can kind of, commandeer some support from your marketing team or your agency to get that work done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it because we do have 33,000 messages coming at us every single day as a consumer, and we're all consumers. Whether we're a B2B consumer or whether we're a B2C consumer, we are consumers and we consume information. And so making sure that the information that we're putting out there is breaking through is really, really important. And there's a science to marketing. So, just making sure that science is adhered to is really important if you want breakthrough and get noticed. And it does take time. So if you're going to if you want to do thought leadership and you want to do it right, it's not it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for, it's not a passing fancy. It's a commitment. You've got to be committed, and you won't feel it for probably 6 to 12 months, honestly. And, if anybody tells you different, they're probably not being 100% honest with you. It takes time to build your own thought leadership base. But once you do, it's like anything, it becomes sort of a flywheel, and it starts to take on its own, growth. But you got to keep feeding it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So outside of social media platforms, what else do you do, Marianne, to move your thought leadership profile or forward?
Yeah, great question. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. I just came out with a book called Ask and Deliver. That's a huge undertaking to write a book, but that's definitely a thought leadership tactic, is to take the time to really write down what you know, and what has sort of propelled you to a position where you have authority on a topic. And I would, writing a book is one thing. Getting involved in your industry, so getting on boards, contributing to speaking events, writing articles, getting those articles published in publications that make sense and are going to help propel your brand or your business brand forward are all important. How you show up really matters. So even understanding your position, what is your personal brand position, and how do you want to be viewed? How do you want to come across? That it takes a lot of strategy and a lot of work. Do you want to be seen as, do you want to be seen as a caregiver? Do you want to be seen as a creator? Do you want to be seen as anti-establishment? What is the position you're going to take? That takes work, and usually takes a brand strategist to help you figure that out. But once you figure that out, that's really what allows you to have focus. And then determining the right tactics based on that focused area is how you can, put a marketing strategy together around your own thought leadership.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
So I should have said, we've done thought leadership for clients where we've actually done makeovers. Physical makeovers on them. They wanted to be kind of this position, and they could be, but they didn't show up that way. So we needed to get them there. And so it can come down to how you look, how you dress, how loud you speak. So we've had speech coaches come in and help them, really find their voice, because they have a lot to say, but if they're quiet about it, it doesn't come across quite the same way. So it's just think of the hard work you do for your brand. That's the same hard work you have to do on your personal brand. And that's really the foundation of strong thought leadership. And then based on that position, then we build the tactics. Maybe LinkedIn is the right channel for you. Maybe Instagram is. Maybe TikTok is. I don't know. It depends. There's so many different platforms. Maybe being on a Forbes Business Council matters. Maybe hitting the Inc. 5000 is one of the things that is a component of your thought leadership or your personal brand. So those things, it isn't like a one size fits all. It really depends on your strategy, the thought leadership strategy that you have, and what you want to accomplish. Because it's one thing to be a thought leader. It's another thing to you have to spend a lot of time on this. So it needs to drive an ROI. So what kind of result are you looking for? And does the team that's helping you really understand those results? And is the plan going to get you there? If it isn't, you need to find a team that's going to get you where you want to go, because it is a commitment.
It's actually the question that I was going to ask is, because again, I think a lot of people dip a toe into the water without realistic expectations.
Yeah.
So what would you say in your experience as a thought leader, as somebody who A, has done this yourself, and B, you are that guide that helps a lot of other CEOs and companies, and not just CEOs, leaders do this. What are some realistic goals for someone who's just starting out in trying this thought leadership approach as part of a larger branding strategy?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So realistic goals, like I said, it's going to take 12 months for you to start feeling it, but that's after you've made a serious commitment. So everything from, some of the goals might be content. How many pieces of content can I get out? That just means articles, little nuggets of information. So you are an expert in something, and you want to be positioned as a thought leader in that something. Understanding who you are and how you want to show up is one step. That's going to take months to really figure out for the team that's working on it. And then they're going to build kind of a personal brand strategy for you. So who are you? Why do you matter? What are your brand values? What's your vision, mission? Everything, again, that you're doing for the business. How does that apply to you as the thought leader? And that we do that because there's so many strategies that can be applied to marketing and communications. So in an effort to focus those strategies and make sure that we're not trying, that our messages don't get lost in all of these communications, we have to have a really focused strategy. Once you have a focused strategy, then, if part of what you're going to share is your expertise on marketing, on advertising, where do we want those articles to be placed? Okay, we want them in Forbes. We want them in Inc. magazine. We want them in Wired. Okay, so those are tactical execution assets that we can then put a goal around. So something realistic, like within your first year, getting your articles placed in a couple different publications would be a realistic goal. Getting them placed in Harvard Business Review, not a realistic goal, not at all. You have to have built a strong foundation. Might not even be a realistic goal to get them in Forbes. You might actually have to do a pay to play, which is also part of the strategy. And it's a very smart strategy depending on the goals and objectives. Social media engagement is another goal. So being able to hit 500 followers on LinkedIn. If you don't have a follower base, I would say it'd be a realistic goal in your first year. Some people might argue you should have a lot more than that. Depends on what your thought leadership is on. If it's a consumer-oriented activity, LinkedIn isn't the right place for you. If it's a B2B activity and it's going to align and give shine back to the business that you work in, that's a realistic goal. You should probably have that many followers anyway. But so there's lots of different tactics that we use, and there should be goals around each of those. And it really does just depend, sadly. But one thing is for sure, if you have an expertise, I believe it is your fiduciary responsibility to share that. And so however you can share that, if it means standing up and giving speeches at your church, if it means, sharing your gifts that you've been given is your responsibility. And if you're one of those people that a lot of people ask, hey, how did you do this? Well, how did you do that? That's a trigger that you should probably put some effort behind your thought leadership, because people are interested already. And so, if you've got some people already asking, it's likely worth your time to put a little bit of effort towards it, because it will help your search engine optimization. If you have a website, all those articles they all have keywords in those articles, and making sure that they help with organic search, will save you time and effort in the future. It's a big area. There's so many components to it that, if you're serious about it, I would find a partner to help you, help you execute it, because it really is a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's not for the faint of heart. And you don't get to set it and forget it. You have to ebb and flow with whatever's going on in the world and the things that are happening in the world. And you have to be relevant if you want to be remembered. And so it takes work and effort, it's just like advertising and marketing. And it's a component of advertising and marketing.
So can you talk a little bit more about keeping yourself abreast of what's going on in the world? I mean, so many CEOs get into that position and then they're running a company and they're looking at the workforce. But also like looking outward, and how do you take that information?
Yeah. I had a friend tell me, as a CEO, you have to be the giraffe. You have to be the one that can see above everything else and looking out across the tundra to figure out, what's coming at you, what isn't. And so being the leader in the organization or in your department that's thinking about the future and helping others understand that the future is coming is really important. And so I read and always have read, Harvard Business Review. I love business. My job is to help other businesses grow. And so if I don't understand what's going on and what's working in business, I'm not going to be the best partner for my clients, and neither are my employees. So it's my job to stay on top of those trends, spot those trends, and then share them. So thought leadership isn't just for an external reward. It's really probably more importantly for your employees. So they understand, hey, these are the things coming down the pipe. These are the things that are relevant in the business, and sharing those both with your employees as well as with your customers or prospective customers is a really important thing to do from a culture, from a brand perspective, and from a business perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What are some of the dangers? I mean, we've all seen some thought.
Well, I mean, not this will be popular to everyone, but it's a belief of mine that you would never base your business brand solely on the thought leader, the CEO. They would be one component of your business brand because they are the leader, and the speed of the lead is the speed of the pack. But if you go all in and all you do and all your advertising is promote that individual, what happens if that individual wins the lottery? What happens if that individual does something that does not align with the ethos and the values of that business? So you have to be very, very careful when it comes to brand strategy, that you don't overemphasize a leader in a way that isolates the leader as everything about that business, because the business is made up of a lot of people, and we're all humans. We're infallible. We might do something wrong that could really be detrimental to the brand, and we don't want to be so tied to a brand that we could hurt it. Now, it's a little different if you're a founder, and I know I'm a founder. I'm not trying to change my tune, but as a founder, a lot of times the business is based on kind of your ethos, your beliefs, your values, your soul. And that's what you're scaling as your business is growing. So founders are a little bit different. So remember Dave from Wendy's? A lot of the creative and the advertising was around Dave, the founder of Wendy's. But Dave passed away. And so they had to figure out how to evolve that story and elevate that story. They're still using the values and the ethos of Dave, but it's not all about Dave. So you just have to think about the future. Again, that's the job of that leader to put their business and their people above themselves, to make sure that they don't get in a sticky situation.
What comes to mind for me there as you talk about that, it's it's an uncomfortable topic, but Jared from Subway, right?
Jared from Subway. Got to be very careful. They went all in on Jared.
Then they had to really scramble to rebrand, reposition the brand away from one person. So
yes, you don't. It's the brand is made up of. It's the sum of the parts.
Yeah,
it's based on some ethos and again position, and but to tie it, anchor it to one human is a scary thing to do.
Thanks for listening to this current episode so far. We appreciate that. If you enjoy listening to leaders like this, as well as other CEOs and thought leaders who can help address the issues keeping you awake at night, then subscribe to the show. leave us a review. That would be helpful. And head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to that as well. That way you can watch and not just listen. And if you'd like help with this topic or any of the topics that we've talked about, anything that helps you with strategic alignment, leadership development, and creating a high-performance culture, that's what we do. That's what our team at Culture by Design does. So head over to culturebydesign.com, schedule an appointment today. Costs you nothing. Schedule an appointment today. We'd love to talk with you about how we might help. Now let's get back to the episode.
Marianne, do you have any thoughts, recommendations for people knowing that there's always going to be somebody who's a naysayer? There's always going to be someone who's critical of what that thought leader's position is or what they're sharing in terms of their gifts and talents. How do you deal with that? Any thoughts about how others might, that may be one of the reasons people don't even attempt.
It's a great point.
Yep.
Again, I think if you take the time up front to figure out the position and how you as a thought leader fit into the position of your brand, and you stay focused within that position, it's even if you're controversial, you're still on brand. Okay. So if that makes sense. So you would have people behind the scenes responding to kind of naysayers or people who have a counterpoint to your point, or you might even be the one that responds to some of that counterpoint, but it would all be, respectful and responsible. If you are divisive in your point of view, you should expect division in the reaction. And that's, if that's your position, fine. I don't recommend it. Again, I wouldn't get involved just like fifth grade level. I wouldn't talk about religion. I wouldn't talk about politics if I'm representing my brand in a thought leadership role. It's just something to stay away from. It's not, no one ever wins everybody on those points, right? But if you can help people understand your position on why you think a topic is important enough to talk about, they can decide within their ethos and their values whether they can align with it. And if they don't, they could at least respect that you didn't make it about something that was openly divisive. So I would stay away from divisive topics. I would get training. When I would have personal brand training. There's training. We at OBI, we do a lot of training on, speaking, dressing, tone of voice, responding, not responding. And I would, if a client got into a sticky situation, I would call my agency. I would not respond. I would call and find out what's the right thing to do, because there are experts, people who deal in crisis comms every day, and they know how to navigate those things. But if you're a thought leader, I would try to stay away from, politics and religion. I would definitely take a point of view, because that's what we want. We want an authentic point of view. I would just not make it about religion or politics.
But
I went too far on that, but I mean it. You're always going to lose a group in that topic. So stay within your craft, stay within what you're an expert on.
Here's what's interesting though. I think about, so what I hear you saying is you don't want to wade into those waters necessarily intentionally, willingly, if you can help it. But sometimes it feels like with social media, you get pulled in. Like there are certain topics. I think about Disney in Florida, right, and some of the policies. It's politics. Some of the political decisions that have been made there, and then you get your own employees wanting you as the CEO or as the leadership, as the company voice, to take a position, to take a stance. How do you advise a client in those sticky situations?
At a very high level, I always err on the side of the brand strategy and brand position. So if you haven't gone through that exercise, you can be a successful business and actually have never gone through that. You will never be as successful as you could be until you go through that. So what I mean by that is who are you? Why do you matter? as a brand, what do you stand for? Your product, your price, your promotion, your people, your place, those things, that's your brand strategy. That's the experience that you provide in every touch point of the business, or you hope to, your tone of voice. So I err in a case where you have somehow gotten pulled into a sticky situation. I would go back and vet my reaction up against what my brand position is, either as a thought leader or as a business. And I would err on the side of that. I would stay true. So if my position was that I was anti-establishment, that was my position, and that's the brand I took. Like I had a very, like I'm Tesla, I'm doing it my way. You might take a very different approach to whether or not you'd wade into a conversation. But if you are Disney, you're Disney, and you're creating magic moments, that's not a place you want to, fall on the sword, because frankly, you're going to piss someone off. And so I would probably not respond, or I would respond in a way where let's take this offline. Let's have an honest conversation. So if it's social media, hey, I'd like to take this offline. Let's have an open, honest conversation with the two of us. I don't want to do that, publicly. I wouldn't say that in my response, but we would advise you to take that off. Or if somebody had a reaction to what you posted and you did want to respond, but it just didn't make sense to get everybody involved, it's absolutely appropriate for you to say, hey, I would like to reach out and talk to you live about this. And then all the other people on that social media chain can see that you have responded. You shouldn't just ignore it, because that's not who you are. So I would advise, based on your brand strategy, what position do you hold in the market, and is a response going to reinforce that position or create more problems for that position?
That's challenging, right? That's the point.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of being congruent and being in integrity. And it's a practice in this world where we get, 33,000 hits a day.
Yeah.
So we've got to keep coming back to that foundation of what's our brand platform, our brand.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of people that want to pull us off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and really holding onto that platform is really, really important, because it will allow the customers and the employees and the advocates that like that position and trust and believe in that position to be attracted to you. And those that don't will go on their merry way and find what works for them. And what we're all trying to do is kind of work in our highest and best. And so knowing who you are at your soul level as a brand really does matter, and it will allow you to attract the right kind of people. And once you've got that, everybody's aligned, the work can go faster, quicker. You start to grow in exponential ways. Alignment really does matter. And you can't be aligned if you've never gone through the process of building your brand position and your brand strategy. So if those are new words to any of your listeners, that's an important, really, really important step one. And it's not the position you might want, it's the position you hold. So you have to do some research to understand, what are you really good at and what matters, and not what do you hope you're good at that matters. If you're not good at it, don't position around it.
So if you're getting a really positive response to what you're really good at,
yeah.
Any thoughts on how you don't let your ego get in the way or get over your skis about who you are?
Yeah. Oh man, that's really hard, because as a leader, you have to have an ego. You're to stand in front of people and try to lead people. It takes a little ego. But I think just always making sure that you're engaging with your customers and your employees and asking them for their feedback and giving them a safe place to provide you with that feedback, and then really critically listening to the feedback will help you not let that ego get too big, because there's always going to be people that react maybe in a different way or respond differently than maybe you anticipate, and you can learn from them. And maybe, what they're saying is an area where you can grow, and you can be vulnerable. And I think a lot more people are attracted to authenticity and vulnerability than to ego.
Right. Reminds me, we were talking about Disney when I was a kid, and there was Jiminy Cricket, who was always whispering wisdom.
Yes. There's so much wisdom to be shared if you would just ask. And so, as a leader, if you're not asking for your constituents to provide you with feedback, you're missing a whole big opportunity of more ways to connect, more leadership opportunities. And I also think that championing your champions is really important in thought leadership. So you don't have to compete. You can co-opt. You can be a co-opetition kind of approach, or you can champion the people that champion you. By doing that, it's like 1 + 1 will equal 11. So the more you promote others that you really respect, the more they'll promote you. And you don't want to do it because you want more followers. You want to do it because you genuinely think they're doing a good job, because that will come across if all you're doing is, promoting other people if it doesn't align with who you are. But when you do that authentically, it's just magic that happens. Before you know it, they're promoting you, and their advocates are promoting you. And so that's another strategy that we use when we see a lot of advocacy and positive perception around a personal brand or around a thought leader. We would champion those champions. We definitely promote their followers.
Before we're kind of getting towards the end of an episode, before we turn to the Let's Get Practical, it's one of our favorite things to do when we have a thought leader on, and that's the role you're playing today, is ask about trends. What are you seeing? What's coming in the marketing, branding space that our listeners should know about?
I mean, AI is obviously a very popular trend. I don't think it's going to be a trend. I think it's just going to be a state of the world. And how you view AI, I think will determine, being honest, your success. So if you're afraid of AI, you're going to be behind. If you're curious about AI and you want to learn more, you're going to be ahead. And so being open is really important when a trend like the internet or AI, these are like the industrial revolution. AI is a revolution. It's not just this passing trend. We've already seen it in so many ways in advertising, help improve output and outcomes, and probably drive costs down for our clients and for ourselves. And so we can't, even though it might take away a job, it's going to open up so much more opportunity for people that are open to it. So AI is a trend, and it's frankly a revolution in my view. Streaming media is again a trend, and it's not going away. So the internet has changed the game for everybody. It's made our world much smaller. Where we can get access to anything we want, anytime we want, because we have this thing called the internet. Before we could have access to things that were within X miles of our, where we were domiciled. Today, I can have anything you can have, anything I can have, because of this internet. And so I think really embracing Web3 is important, and understanding streaming media and how that has opened up so much more content to be made. So think of like all the writers now who have more work, all of the content that we can consume that before we couldn't. When we had terrestrial radio or we had, cable, we were limited. We couldn't go back and we couldn't get things on demand until, recently. Now we can watch anything we want, anytime we want. And so we have access to more, and that just gives us more opportunities as humans to learn and grow and evolve. It also takes a lot of time. Like, I'm highly addicted to Suits, and it's an old series that's been on. But I'm losing time on my weekends because I'm not as productive, because I'm just so in love with the show. So you have to be careful with those kinds of trends. Other trends are travel as a trend, I think, is coming back. COVID had a big impact on, limited our ability to travel, and now people are back traveling. And, I firmly believe that the more you travel and the more you can meet people, the closer we can be in coming together. So I'm excited for that trend. So I think streaming media is a huge trend when it comes to advertising. And why it's important, not just from the mass amounts of content and the ability to make our world so much smaller, is that we can actually track who's engaging in TV, and in the streaming media platforms. And that allows us to be more efficient with the media dollars that we're spending, and to really be able to hone in on what message is working with which audience. And a lot of CEOs, a lot of CMOs, they need an ROI. In order to spend a lot of dollars in advertising, they need an ROI. And it's allowing us to be able to, put an ROI that isn't assumption-based, it's real. And I think that's really exciting for advertising, because Coca-Cola doesn't spend billions of dollars every year in advertising because they want to. They do it because it works. They know they've stopped spending and they've seen the impact. But new organizations spending, lots of dollars, it takes a long time to build that kind of base case scenario. And so I think being able to track the ROI and the cost of acquisition through advertising is just going to allow more peace of mind and more confidence in that spend. So I think you'll see more spend happening on digital media platforms, which is great.
Beautiful. Looking at my colleagues, any other questions before we get practical?
Not to me.
I think we're good.
Okay. Awesome. Marianne, thank you again. It's always, you're just a wealth of information, and you share it in engaging ways. I appreciate that. So now it's time to get practical. This is part of our show where we give our leader listener key points, key simple things that they can implement in their business, and the next day or so to begin making inroads, make progress. So here in emerging as a thought leader, or capitalizing on some of the trends, or perhaps something we didn't talk about today. So I'm going to look at my colleagues. Who's ready? Who wants to go first?
I can go.
Okay.
And I'll leave plenty for everybody else.
Plenty here.
Yes. One is that thought leadership demands a point of view.
Yep.
And it requires a strategy. And in business, it must be aligned to your brand. The last one is, and I love this, it's not too late to emerge as a thought leader. It's never too late.
Never too late.
Good.
Patrick or Patsy?
Patsy, you want to go?
Well, I loved it, Marianne, that you said if you have an expertise and a gift, it is your fiduciary responsibility to share it. That was like that stake in the ground. And right after that, you said you have to be a giraffe. You have to be able to look out above the savannah and see what's coming, so you can share it with your employees, and you can also share it with those in the the business where it matters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any more you want to add?
Am I next?
Yeah, go for it. You go.
One thing I said that I think I really want your listeners to hear is, if people ask you a lot of questions, that means that they value your thoughts, and you must be an expert. So sometimes we only know what we know, right? And so if we are in this leadership role and we think we know, but we're not for sure, and we don't have a huge ego. If people are asking you a lot of questions, that implies that they think you have valuable information to share. And I do think it's your responsibility to share it. And sharing it in a way that it works for you is the right way to share it. So I definitely think if you've mastered your craft and people are asking you questions, you need to share it. And I had said something earlier that I didn't mention, but I do want to say is, a lot of times I will get a call from a CEO or from a leader in an organization when they've just gotten so frustrated that their teenager keeps they're so angry with them that they haven't shared their knowledge, or they have a terrible social media presence. And I mean that. I mean, yes, your marketing team will tell you that and you'll hear them. But I found more times than not that when your child, your almost adult child starts, hazing you for not, not representing yourself the way that they see you, that's maybe a point in your career where you think, okay, maybe I need to put a plan in place around my thought leadership.
Awesome.
Wow.
I mentioned offline, I hired my annoying teenager who wanted my social media presence to be better. And she's great. All right, I'll add a few. Let's see. Marian, you said, as a business, you can be successful without a brand position and a brand strategy, but you will never be as successful as you could be with one. I thought that was an important point to make. There's the whole cautionary tale of yes, thought leadership is a great strategy. Just be careful not to tie your brand to one person, that the risk to the brand is too great. In your thought leadership, you said this, Marian, people are more attracted to authenticity and vulnerability than ego. Keep that in mind in your approach to the content that you're creating. And maybe one more I'll add, and then I'll throw it back around. Thought leadership is a commitment, and it's not for the faint of heart. It takes time to do it right. You estimated 6 to 12 months, and then later I think you landed more on 12 months than 6 months. It's a commitment, but if you stick to it, it will eventually become a flywheel that can pay off handsomely for your brand. I'm going to kick it back to my colleagues. What would you add? What did we leave out?
Well, I'd add a compliment to what you just said is if you haven't gone through personal brand training, go get some training, because most of us aren't. And it's about a strategy. So hire somebody to help you with your strategy. Know what your goals are.
Yeah.
If only we knew of a company that could help them. Lev, before we get there, Lev, did you have one more any more you want to add?
Just that authenticity communicates. So
Yes.
just stepping away from the message. If you own it and it's real to you and you share it, it communicates on its own.
Yes. Now, I just alluded to, if only there were a company, Marianne, if a leader listener is interested in that brand position, that brand strategy, or any of the coaching that you've talked about, that brand thought leadership coaching, or if they're looking for an expert to help them, how can they engage with OBI Creative?
Well, we would be so happy to help them. We do it every day with clients. We have a product called Quiet Riot. So a lot of, executives don't want the whole world to know that they have an agency behind them helping build their brand. But the reality is that's sometimes what it takes. And so it's just called Quiet Riot. So we've got, different levels, and we can absolutely help people do that if they want to build their own personal brand and thought leadership. But they got to go through a brand strategy, like you said, Patrick. And that's what that's what we are founded on. And so they can just give us a call. Our if you use the phone still, and you can call 402-493-7999, or you can just email me directly at mobrien, MOBRIEN, at obicreative.com. And if you can't remember that, you can just go to our website, obicreative.com, and you can send us a note from the website, and we will follow up with you. And there's no cost to call us and inquire and find out what it would take. We're happy to share that with anyone interested. And if we can't help you, we can help get you to the right place. So would love to see that. It's a really important part of your marketing plan and your marketing strategy. So don't be afraid to do it. A lot of times it's hard to ask, and it's kind of a private thing to ask, like, hey, can you help me with thought leadership? don't be afraid. We'll keep it confidential, and we will help you.
Well, and we, Leb, Patsy, and I, we can speak from experience because you have been our brand strategist, our guide through this process for the last couple of years, helping us with that brand position, and each of us emerging as thought. Your team has helped us level up our podcast. So we really can endorse OBI and the work that you do. So thank you for that. It's been great. And it's been great to have you on. Finally, 71 episodes in, and we finally got you on the show. Marianne, thank you again for joining us today on the Frustrated CEO podcast. It was a joy for us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And listener, connect with all four of us on LinkedIn. Patrick Lyons, Marianne O'Brien, Leb Tannenbaum, Patsy Beeman. Connect with us on LinkedIn if you have not already. Give us your feedback, your thoughts on the show. If you'd like to be a potential guest on the show, or you know a great CEO or industry thought leader, then get that information to us. Connect with us, message us. We'd love to hear. And thank you again for sticking with us to the end of another episode of the Frustrated CEO podcast. You can find this episode's Let's Get Practical, as well as all of our previous Let's Get Practicals, on our website at thefrustratedceo.com. And we'll see you again next time.